recreate some of those usable lines. So again, we have not filed yet. We had some conversations with the conservation agent. I felt that this would be a simplified filing to the commission, but under that, they're under sort of strict deadlines for issuing approvals. And so they had suggested that we reach out to the various town boards in advance to gather any feedback that you all may have.
Yeah.
So we're here, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any committee members, any input?
Just to be clear, it looks and sounds to me like it's not extending any further out into the waterway. It's kind of maintaining its existing footprint. You're just altering the layout of it, if you will, to accommodate for the sand buildup.
That's it, all within the existing outer L of the pier. All the work is landward of that.
Based on that, I don't have any problem with
it. This is the same thing that you just brought in front of the Shellfish Committee last week.
Last week, correct? Yep.
This is fine. I'm just on my screen for some reason. I just see the agenda, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, John, you didn't share your screen. I'm sorry. I should let you know.
Let me try to stop and then switch it back. I'm sorry.
The project's pretty cut and dry, and it's not going to affect really anything.
Try to see if it pops up again this time. Is the map up now?
It is on my screen.
Okay.
Also on mine, yeah.
Yeah. So again, green's already been done, purple's going to be done, and we're talking about just relocating some of the floats that were up in here out a little bit deeper and kind of reconfiguring these two to be more perpendicular, taking this tie line, putting it out into here, but all within the outer end of the pier.
Okay, any other committee members, comments? Harbor Master's input?
No issues with navigation here.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to approve this pre-NOI for the Hyannisport Civic Association.
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Todd?
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Gary, you vote on this?
That's fine. It's not extending the footprint. It's fine.
Okay, Jacob?
I agree.
Okay, and I am also in agreement. I'm going to, Gary, good to see that you got back online. I'm going to just revert quickly back to agenda item number 2, our minutes here. We have a motion made by Todd. We need a second, and then we can vote to approve the October 22nd minutes.
Hey, second. That's fine.
Oh,
I reviewed them earlier. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And I'm assuming all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you for that. Number 3, request for amended order of conditions. Town of Barnstable, Bismore Park bulkhead repairs. The proposed work as part of this amended request includes the replacement of the existing utility service lines from the pump house to the bulkhead tie-ins for the public pier utility services, plus or minus 570 linear feet. The existing water lines and pier pedestals at the project site are currently unserviceable and require full replacement in preparation for the future electrical lines. The utility work as part of this amendment will be performed entirely landward of the bulkhead. Is there anyone to speak to this?
Brian Taylor, Harbor Master. So basically we are replacing water lines at Bismore Park. It's part of the Chapter 91 that we're filing, as well as replacing or excuse me, redoing some of the bulkhead at Bismore Park. So this is all landward, and it's just replacing water lines.
Okay, thank you. Does any committee members have a comment or question?
No, not at this time.
No, it's fine.
Okay, the harbor master has already spoken to this. I'd entertain a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Todd. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, thank you. Todd, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. Gary?
in favor.
Jacob?
You're muted,
You're
Jacob.
on mute.
Yeah, I'm in favor with this. I saw
Okay.
conservation.
Thank you, and I am as well. So that passes. For mooring appeals, old business. Number one, mooring regulations. Jay?
Yes, sir. As the committee knows, we made some changes to the mooring regulations. The Waterways Committee approved these changes. They're moving forward in the process right now. I'm happy to report. There will be, as part of the process, there will be a public hearing on December 9th at 10 a.m. in the conference selectman room of Town Hall. This is upstairs in Town Hall. And we're going to open it up to any public comment, listen to any concerns that people might have about the changes. At that point, they will officially go to the town manager where he can sign off on them. There is a waiting period of 30 days once he signs these and puts them into effect. They go to the town council. It's just a formality, but 30 days after signature, they will go to effect. And it's good timing for us here at the department because it means by basically January 15th, right in the beginning of mooring renewal season, we'll have these new regulations in effect. So we're excited about that.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further?
I believe Brian's going to speak to the marina fees.
Okay, Brian, take it away. Marina fees on the agenda.
Good evening, Brian Taylor, Harbor Master. So the town manager held a calendar year fee hearing on November 12th. Marina fees were included in that fee hearing. He will take a period of approximately 30 days to review and get comments from the public, and then make a determination on the fees at that time. So I should have a further update in December.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. New business. The agenda correspondence shows a Paul Phelan email regarding mooring usage. I understand Mr. Phelan is not here tonight. And I'm not certain whether committee members has received his email. Do you know, Jay or Brian?
The office has received his email.
He's asking if committee members, I believe I shared it with all the committee members.
Okay.
If it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to defer this until Paul's available to speak on it. I do have comments regarding it, but I would like to address him directly and speak to it then. So I believe he's going to put this again on the agenda next month.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. We'll do that. We'll defer this, and we'll let the record show. Correspondence to Paul Revere III, response letter appeal in regards to AGL's mooring service provider termination by the town. Due to potential conflict of interest concerns, I will recuse myself in this regard. I'm going to appoint Todd Willantis to stand in my place. Todd will preside as chair for this portion of the meeting. So I turn it over to Todd Willantis at this point.
Great. Mr. Revere, are you here? I saw you earlier.
We're here. Chip and I are here, and we got one Zoom, two people in the
Okay.
same.
That works for me. Do you want to go ahead and kick us off here?
You're asking that question of myself?
It's either that or I'm going to go in and read the letter that you sent to the Waterways Committee.
Yeah. No, I just wasn't sure because there isn't a real specific procedure set forth as how you're going. So I want to make sure you're asking me the question here.
Well, I just want to speak to that real quickly. As it sits right now in my eyes, and please understand I'm filling in for our chairman, but as I see it right now, it's correspondence. So I'd like to see where you'd prefer to go with this, but as it sits in front of me right now, it's just correspondence. So either I can read the letter in so that we can enter it into public record, or we can give you the floor and you can talk a little bit about the nature of the correspondence. But if it's going to get more formal than that, then I think there has to be a discussion had whether it's going to be actually specifically added to the agenda and advertised, because I'm not sure I'm comfortable taking it as an actual formal matter other than just correspondence at this point in time.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with you at all on that, because I did write the letter and I did express some concern to the town attorney's office as to what extent we were going to address the merits of this at this proceeding. And of course, my correspondence, I'm not going to read it verbatim. I think you all have it.
Yep.
I just want to say something too, that Mr. Niehoff and I, if I call him Chip, he is the principal of AGL. And one of the things that we've been talking about in this matter is this is a kind of unusual situation for the Waterways Committee to deal with an appeal involving essentially someone's livelihood. And one of the points of my letter was the lack of sort of a detailed record. And it's one of the things we talked about is you sort of have, if and when we get to an appeal, either in yes, we agree with the harbor master, no, we disagree with the harbor master's decision, and then whether there were alternative outcomes to it. And one of the ones Chip and I discussed, actually, which came to my attention, is that maybe one of the outcomes right now is to say, well, Mr. Revere's written this letter. He's made some concerns about information and support, that perhaps it might be, I say, potential third outcome that the Waterways Committee says, why don't we put this on to a next meeting, ask that the harbor master's office respond to the letter to me, I provide response, and we develop a more detailed administrative record, and we may resolve some of these complaints because there may be factual issues, and then leave it to the harbor master whether they want to issue a further revocation letter with specifics, but they will have an administrative record as to AGL's response, and you can have something more fully developed to act more like an appellate procedure. Because right now, as it stands, if we were to do the appeal, you're going to end up being almost like a fact finder rather than an appellate.
Yeah, and I can only speak to, this particular moment in time, but as far as I'm concerned, this is correspondence, and you're deserved of your platform. And I have read I guess for lack of a better word, the termination notification, read your appeal or response, if you will. And I think if you're going to pursue it further through Waterways, it's probably a great idea to put it out there for both the harbor master's office and, of course, town council, if they find it within their purview to respond, and we can have a more formal approach of dealing with this. But it's very clear to me at this second in time that the harbor master's office has the ability to renew or non-renew a number of different permits and licenses within their department. And based on the letter that they sent out to you, there were 9 reasons there. I'm not a judge, I'm not a jury, so I'm not going to go through each one of those and identify them, and I'm probably not even qualified nor entitled to discuss them at this point in time. But I think if that's the approach that you want to take with it, then I think it probably has a little more due course coming, and I'm not even sure next month is appropriate just with the holidays and everything. But I think you might want to take a slightly different approach to it so that it's something other than correspondence, so that if nothing else, maybe you can get some more bite on the response. Because right now all it is correspondence, and we can read it, we can talk about it to a limited extent, but as acting chairman for this second, I don't see that there's a motion to be made. I don't see there's anything that we can do with it other than acknowledge it.
Harbor Master Taylor, could you speak to this? Because per the regulations and the way I understood this, the format here is that the license was terminated. AGL has 15 days to appeal that matter. And according to the regulations verbatim, it says anyone aggrieved by license termination may appeal it to the town of Barnstable Waterways Committee. So I was under the impression that's what we were here to do tonight, was to listen to this appeal. Let Chip and Mr. Revere speak to why they think it shouldn't be revoked. I thought we were going to be discussing this matter tonight. I know it's been in the legal department. I know it's been going back and forth, but the process clearly states I have the right to terminate. They have the right to appeal and go to Waterways. I know it's not under mooring appeals because it's not a mooring, but I feel like this is an official appeal process tonight.
Now, Mr. Willantis, are you indicating this because how it's written up under the correspondence?
I just looking at the agenda, whereas it's just correspondence. I'm not sure that if we want to hear an appeal, I'm happy to hear it. I just want to make sure that we're within purview. And if Mr. Horn is saying that there's an appeal period of, did you say 15 days?
Which there is, in which they did meet.
They did meet. Okay.
They did file properly. So
if we take this under correspondence, is that acceptable? And can we hear this appeal based notification of just correspondence?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, we communicated that there was correspondence in regards to AGL's mooring servicer license. We communicated the appeal letter to the Waterways Committee. I say yes.
Okay. Go ahead then.
So you're back to me.
Would you like to start this off?
Sure.
Yeah,
if you don't mind, I'm sorry to interrupt. I as a new committee member, I just got Paul's letter from, I think, Brian, like 15 minutes or before this meeting. So I actually don't know literally any of the context of what's going on right now. I'll be honest with you, because I didn't get time to read the letter or anything like that. So,
well, again, he's appealing to Waterways. We can get into discussion now. Mr. Niehoff and his attorney Mr. Revere can get into some of the details throughout the letter that was shared regarding the appeal. We've already notified the mooring servicer that his license is going to be terminated. You're appealing that decision. You're at Waterways now to state the claim of why.
Mr. Revere, do you want to step in now?
Yeah, no, I'm just waiting because you're the chair of this. Okay. When I look at this procedurally, I just want to come back. We have an issue that there was a termination letter sent to my client. We have the right to appeal that termination to the Waterways Committee. Okay. As I see it, essentially, the harbor master's office has submitted what they consider to be their evidence. We were never given a chance to give evidence beforehand. And I'm kind of taken aback that we, have 3 people from the harbor master's office here, because I think it's completely unfair if they're intending to put new evidence to us in this meeting. We were appealing the decision that they gave, and the decision that they gave and the rationale for it is what we're appealing, not a new rationale tonight. I don't have a problem addressing it. I did state some concern that it was listed as correspondence, that it wasn't clear to me whether our appeal had been accepted and was going to be heard at this meeting. But I can address the issues if you'd like me to go forward. So
I think based on the harbor master's comments, it's probably appropriate at this time to go ahead and
okay,
let's handle the appeal.
So my client received this letter with notice, with a list of 8 allegations of actions. He received it in late October, and it listed what it said were, as I say, 9 violations here. Okay.
Is that the letter dated October 8th, 2024?
Correct. And we filed a letter in response requesting an appeal, and stated on a number of bases how, in terms of taking away someone's livelihood, administratively, the letter was incomplete. This is Mr. Chip's Niehoff's life. He works on the water, and there isn't a real cogent basis explained for how each of these violations is such that it ties into the regulations. Okay. There's an explanation of the substantive evidence. It makes it very difficult for this board to come up with adequate review. There's a number of reviews of substantial evidence or failure to comply with the law. The evidence is there. As my notes here say, it's almost like someone is a professional truck driver and he gets a notice that says you were speeding and we're taking away your license, but there's no explanation as to exactly the details of each of this. Okay. And as I say, you'll see in some of my responses to each of the points, and I'm going to address them in a minute. I kind of found it like it being a plumber who loses his license because his client has a leaky pipe. I'm going to address each of the items in the letter. I'm going to start out with what I'll call a sort of legal point. I've got Mr. Niehoff, who's here to provide some factual background for each of them. Okay. Item number 1 is simply that my client received a letter in August 2022 that said, you have been found to be in violation in the past. If you do it again, you might have your license revoked. Okay. There's no answer to this other than we received the letter. Okay. In fact, receiving a letter is not a reason to have a license revoked. Okay. Item number 2 says on May 8th, 2024, an alleged overloaded skiff was found in Barnstable Harbor. There's no explanation in the letter as to why the skiff is considered to be overloaded. It just says, well, it's got too much mooring equipment in it. There's no further citation to a mooring regulation, which was violated, that says a mooring operator can't have an overloaded skiff. And I'm not saying that having an overloaded skiff is a good thing. I'm merely saying the harbor master, it says they're doing this because you violated the mooring service regulations, but doesn't really explain specifically what was done and what was wrong. There's a little background to this. Mr. Niehoff took some corrective action. This employee, and I did talk with town council about this today. I'm not going to name the employee. I did tell town council that I would provide the names in a minute. Because of an incident like this, was told that they were no longer going to work on the water, that they could only work in the shop. That employee said, well, the water's my life, and he is no longer an employee of AGL. It also, some of this evolves out of work in Barnstable Harbor, and there is a little background to that, as some people may know. There was a mooring servicer in Barnstable Harbor who had some personal issues, which prevented him from continuing to do moorings for a number of clients. And Mr. Niehoff stepped in over in Barnstable primarily to service those moorings because he knew that person well and felt that when the person got their personal matters over, he would return that business back to him. And he was trying to protect his friend's business. I did get some information, Mr. Niehoff did too, about this skiff, and the skiff wasn't overturned or anything. It was actually stopped. Its engine wouldn't start at the time. So that is the response to number 2. Item number 3. Do you have it? By the way, Chip, do you have anything to add to item number 2? Okay, Chip's fine with that. Item number 3. This involves a vessel that allegedly broke free from its mooring in Halls Creek. It says was grounded. AGL was identified as the mooring servicer, and faulty tackle was determined to be the cause of failure. Okay. Mr. Niehoff, who's here, he vehemently disagrees that faulty tackle was the reason for it being loose. He'd recently set that mooring. The mooring had dragged in a strong wind that happened on those days. I don't know if any of you have been to Halls Creek recently or navigated there, but it changed significantly in the last couple of years. Its bottom surface changes in the area of moorings. It has a very strong current in there. And I say strong current that it makes the substrate change in numerous ways. But the allegation is that because this boat got loose, Mr. Niehoff violated 406.11. 406.11 simply provides that an inspection must be done. There's no explanation at all in this paragraph, this item 3, as to how AGL improperly performed the inspection. Okay, and this brings me to some of the issues that I mentioned earlier. Is that I have a letter that says, well, they improperly performed the inspection. Well, where was the break? Where did it occur? What was the inspection form that was wrong? There's none of this information is provided. And are we in a position to answer it if the harbor master's office explains tonight? I don't know. And we deserve some level of prior notice on some of these issues. Anything you'd like to add to that, Chip, on number 3? Nothing more. Item number 4 states that on July 1st, 2024, Mr. Henry Livingston emailed the department to register a complaint with regards to AGL mooring services. Mr. Livingston stated that he attempted to contact you, meaning AGL, several times via email and phone and received no reply. His mooring was not placed in the water prior to July 1st, which is a direct violation of 406.7. Okay. The first thing we have to begin with is 4067 says nothing, says that does not say that a mooring servicer is required to put in a mooring himself by a specific date. It just says mooring holders are required to do that. Okay. Number two, the client in this matter, and it's kind of interesting, and Chip was writing some notes here, but Mr. Livingstone had said to Mr. Niehoff that he felt that people were stealing his mooring equipment, and they wanted Mr. Niehoff to install, is it a 2,000-pound block?
5,000 pounds.
A 5,000-pound block for being a mooring, and I believe it's off Salton Point, Barnstable Harbor, which is a completely uncompliant mooring in terms of the town regulations. So this is almost puts Mr. Niehoff in this Hobson's choice of, well, my client's complaining because I won't do something illegal for him. And the harbor master's office, it seems to be saying now, well, you didn't do what your client asked for. And I asked the question of, how is Mr. Niehoff responsible to put in the mooring under the regulations? He's a service provider. He provides service. If he's not doing timely service to his clients under the regulation, that's really a contractual matter between him and his clients, not a violation. Nowhere do I see anywhere it says mooring service providers shall install every mooring that they inspect by this specific date, have it in the water. Okay, and that would be an interesting requirement. So that was item number 4. Item number 5 involves winter stakes. And what it alleges is that there were winter stakes in the water on July 31st, 2024. Okay. Deputy Harbor Master Jay Horn observed them. The stakes were identified as having been placed by AGL. And there's a statement that winter stakes must be removed by June 1st annually. Okay. I come back to this same sort of issue that's stated here before. We're not disagreeing that there may have been stakes that Mr. Niehoff placed the previous fall in there, but it's a little, there's no clear regulation that says that the mooring servicer is responsible for moving the winter stakes of the permit holders. The permit holders hold the permit. What Mr. Niehoff has is he has a license to do inspections, basically, and to install moorings. He doesn't own those moorings. If he puts a winter stake in and the client doesn't pay him, and we're going to see some of that in a minute, it's not, the regulations don't say if you put a winter stake in September, you must remove it the following year by June 1st, come, excuse my French, hell or high water, regardless of whether your client pays you, asks you, or wants you, or will pay you to remove it. And that's a kind of interesting point on some of these things.
They don't want to put them on in.
Yeah, and some of these involve people who don't want to put their moorings in and won't pay Mr. Niehoff to do so in these matters. Item 6 involves the Yarmouth DNR reporting that they found a boat that had been adrift that was on a mooring that had been serviced by AGL. We somewhat have, and again, this is cited as that Mr. Niehoff did not inspect this properly. And I note that this is, midsummer, and some of the chain ain't what it used to be in terms of corrosion resistance. Right. But Mr. Niehoff, I think we have this factual dispute. It's his position that the actual bridle was cut here in this matter on I'll leave the person out. I think Mr. Horn and everyone knows who's the owner, but that it wasn't something involving inspection, and the mooring ball was not attached in this matter, and that, you know, he believes someone, for reasons that are unclear, cut and loosened the boat. It was on a single line. It's now on a double bridle line to make sure nothing happened. And wasn't it cut right at the
Thimble.
At the thimble eye?
At the thimble eye.
Which is kind of odd. Okay. The next one is item 7, August 3rd, 2024. And this involves, and again, this individual, I discussed with council that we'd provide the name if they wanted the name of this individual. But he was a nephew of a close friend. This person had worked for the Steamship Authority. Who else did he work for?
County dredge.
County dredge.
He circumnavigated the world in a boat.
Had significant water experience, had been hired to do this. As you can see from the matter, as reported, the person had a problem with their boat off Calmus. There are some interesting waves that happen out there at various moments, having been there. And the only thing cited was, well, 1, the boat appears to have been overloaded, and 2, there's a citation to no life jackets being on board. Frankly, this is no longer an employee of AGL. He was rapidly removed after this. A number of employers have hard time finding good employees nowadays. It's true in the marine business, such as this. Mr. Niehoff is unsure why there wasn't any life jacket on board.
It was.
And as Chip said to me, there was. I actually,
there's a dry box on there too. I mean, everything was recovered.
Say that, Chip.
Hey, listen, show me where there wasn't a life jacket. There was 4 life jackets on the boat. There was a dry box. We recovered all the electronics. His cell phone still works because it was in the dry box. I don't know how this guy flipped this boat.
Yeah. So, in any event, so pointed out, item 8, and this is one that always gets dear to everybody's heart. This involves, it's an allegation of failure to inspect a chain. Okay. This involves Mr. Niehoff's sister. Okay. Mr. Niehoff's sister has a last name that is Schmidt. Okay. She placed her boat on a mooring with the name of Walker. The name Walker is actually the name of Carl's mother. She got divorced from Carl's father. Mr. Niehoff and Mrs. Walker don't talk. They don't communicate. In fact, literally, I have a court order here in my file where he's prohibited from communicating with her. For reasons that are unclear to Mr. Niehoff, his sister did not put her boat on her moorings that had Schmidt on them, but put it on a mooring of a person that, unfortunately, for family matters, he has no communication with, and that's the mooring that let loose, not a mooring that was inspected for Miss Schmidt for that year. It's yeah, as Mr. Niehoff was saying, it's pretty much a derelict mooring. Okay, so that takes me through item 9, and we're throwing a lot at you. Or item 8. Item 9 is a Mr. Tyagi. Okay, and well, Tyagi, a little history of Mr. Niehoff, and the history is Mr. Tyagi. Mr. Green's at the table. Mr. Tyagi hasn't paid Mr. Niehoff in the past, and frankly, not a customer of Mr. Niehoff's because he doesn't pay. And I just had connection. So did you hear what I had just said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just checking. I didn't, if I was garbled, I want to repeat it.
Did everyone else Was everyone else able to hear Mr. Revere?
Would the customer pay?
Yeah. Okay. That's why I stopped for a second, waited until it stabilized, but I wanted to make sure.
Let me just add something here.
Okay. And so I was going to say seriously, I don't think it's a reason to take away someone's license to not do work for someone who doesn't pay for you. Chip wanted to add something here.
Just for example, in Mr. Tiagi's situation, I was contacted by the harbor master's office, and they said Mr. Tiagi's requesting the mooring in, and it would be nice if you could take care of that. I did that at the request of the harbor master's office. I mean, I want to help. You guys are my authority, okay? I want to make you happy. I want to work with you. All the above. I don't want your phone to ring because of this. I put his mooring in, and that mooring there was a letter that was sent from your office to Mr. Tiagi confirming that it was it. Still at this time, Mr. Tiagi's never made a restitution or paid me for my work there. So, but I do this at your request, but I mean, a man can only carry so many bricks on his head after a while.
Yeah. So I guess the summary of all of this is I'm not going to tell you my client's perfect. No one is perfect. Okay. There's no way. And I say doing everything 100% every time. There are areas, issues here. My client has incredible respect for the harbor master's office. Okay. And I have respect for them. I see them out on the water. But the letter, as it's now written, I don't think is sufficient to put AGL out of business. The facts aren't tied to specific mooring regulations and specific actions. If the facts had been shown, here's an inspection that was submitted on X date. It says that Mr. Niehoff inspected the upper third, because you don't need to inspect the lower portions every year. On this date, he says he inspected it, and 2 weeks later, it got loose. And looking at the mooring, we believe there's no way he could have passed it. There's not that type of specifics. As I said, the tying of the regulations, and then some of the duties seem to be being imposed on Mr. Niehoff, which are really the duties and mistakes of the permit holders. Okay. And that's why, I began this discussion, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, talking about, this appeal as it stands has this difficult of, yes, we affirm the appeal. And I don't think anybody wants to say that the harbor master people aren't good people and are trying to do a hard job and saying, yes, we affirm the appeal. Mr. Niehoff was not wrong. Okay. And I don't think many people on the Waterways Committee are dying to say, no, we deny the appeal and Mr. Niehoff's out of business, and it's going to be an interesting summer in some harbors to get this work done. And that's why I sort of began the discussion that maybe there's a third route of some kind of, I joked once when I said about this, that it's a famous line from the movie Animal House, that the double secret probation, that AGL needs to be, we reverse the harbor master, but with the instruction that Mr. Niehoff will lose his license immediately, or will be reviewed in 6 months for his compliance, or it will be revoked. But some other third possibility that respects the office of the harbor master, which I think we all respect, and also respects the impacts on Mr. Niehoff, who, how many moorings do you service in Barnstable, Chip? How many moorings?
Many, 400.
400 moorings. I think it's a lot of clients out there, and issues. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Chip?
Thank you.
Thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Revere. At this point, does anyone from the board want to discuss anything? Have any questions?
Well, Todd, I have a prepared statement, and I just want to talk about the process again, right? The Harbor Master's Office reserves the right to terminate a mooring servicer's license. The issues that I sent AGL were a sample of the logs that we had underneath this company's name. They weren't intact. I didn't go into great detail about them and prove everything with inspection reports. I'm not required to do that, but I have prepared that for the Waterways Committee tonight. So I just want to take a second here to explain to the Waterways Committee how we got here. All right. The Harbor Master's Office has made the decision to terminate AGL's mooring services license per the Town of Barnstable's mooring regulations 406-18. 406-18M states, failure of a licensed servicer to abide by these regulations or the direction of the Harbor Master's Office may result in the termination or non-renewal of said license. Depending on the severity of the offense, a progressive approach shall be utilized. First offense, a verbal warning. Second offense, a written warning. Third offense, termination of license. Anyone aggrieved by a license termination may appeal to the Town of Barnstable's Waterway Committee. The decision was based on the following facts, not allegations. On July 12, 2022, I sent AGL an email asking to open a better line of communications between his company and the Harbor Master's Office. Included in this email were several violations of the town regulations. I did not receive a reply to this email. On August 1st, 2022, I sent AGL another email addressing another violation along with a written warning that his license was in jeopardy. Again, I've received no response. On August 3rd, 2022, I sent AGL a certified letter, which was received as confirmed through the United States Post Office. This letter outlined 8 violations of the town mooring regulations and stated that any further violations may result in the loss of AGL's license. Again, AGL failed to contact me and discuss the issues presented. This was the second written warning. From the date of that letter until now, AGL has had 12 additional incidents logged by our office. Some of these are major violations which pose a severe risk to public safety and property. In addition to these incidents, the Harbor Master Office has received numerous complaints via email, phone, and in person regarding his lack of communication between AGL and our permit holders. In total, AGL has 25 incidents logged in our current software system. It's also important to note that these numbers don't reflect the actual incidents logged, as reports are often recorded under the individual permit holder's name. On August 8th, 2024, I sent AGL a certified letter, which was received as confirmed by the United States Post Office, terminating his license within the Town of Barnstable. And I would just like to take a few minutes to go into a couple of the details that led to this decision. This was addressed by Mr. Avery. This boat engine failed in Barnstable Harbor. Harbor Master Taylor had to go out and tow it in. As you can see from the picture, we have a couple inches of freeboard in the front of the boat, severely overloaded. Is this a violation of the regulations? No. Do I expect more professionalism from a mooring servicer company? Yes. In my opinion, this employee obviously wasn't trained properly, and we have to deploy town resources to rescue him. And that's very important on the north side because it's an extremely large area to cover. And if we were to receive another phone call off of Sandy Neck, it puts us in a very tough position.
Okay, can you just make the screen, this image the full screen, please?
Okay. Later that year, again, we talked about this. The same boat was overloaded, capsized off of Calmus. Again, we had to pull a person out of the water. In this case, the employee did end up in the water, but was severely overloaded. And again, accidents happen, but this is the second time in 1 year that we had an incident with this vessel. And again, I'm not going to go into all of these, gentlemen, but I just want to give you the highlights of this, and I'm sorry that my computer's being slow. All right, right here we have an illegal mooring that AGL put in the water for all Cape boat rentals. All Cape boat rentals does not have a mooring permit in the town of Barnstable. You can clearly see here this mooring has no label on it, no identification, no permanent mooring number. All of our mooring servicers know the process with permitting moorings. When someone is offered a mooring, they are given a set of requirements that they have to submit to the office. One of those is a promise to build from a mooring servicer that states they'll put the right size anchor out for this individual. Once that person is permitted, I personally email the mooring servicer with their identification number. I tell them that they're permitted, and I choose the location of the mooring itself to where to be placed. None of this happened. And again, I have a mooring servicer who is basically telling the 200 people on the wait list, you don't have to wait, I'll just put a mooring in for you. This is a sample of the chain that was pulled off of one of the boats that was submitted to CHIP for failure to inspect. This isn't a guideline, gentlemen. This is serious, okay? The mooring program has very specific regulations when it comes to inspections. The mooring servicers are required to submit an inspection report of a full mooring inspection every 3 years. I've been working with chain for 6 years now in the department. I've done thousands of buoys for our ATONs, for our transient mooring program, and I can tell you that the chain you see on the right-hand side here in the picture is more than 3 years old. This is failure to inspect. And here's another close-up of that chain. And again, you can see the red mooring ball. Everyone knows in Hyannis, there's 2 different color mooring balls because we have 2 different mooring servicers there. Anchor and buoys balls are blue, and AGL's moorings are red. So again, failure to inspect the chain. I want to address the Walker incident that Mr. Avery spoke about. What he said is primarily true. Schmidt is the sister of the owner of AGL. He is also listed on her mooring permits, which she has 2 of, as the mooring servicer. If this wasn't the case, she would have contacted me and she would have submitted her new mooring servicer. I would have put that into our system. The Walker moorings were legally transferred to Schmidt. Both of the moorings went from the mother to the daughter legally. The mooring numbers stay the same. The tackle stays the same. It's the mooring licenser's responsibility to change the name on the ball to reflect the new mooring permit holder, okay? This didn't happen. Chip was notified of the mooring transfer. He failed to change the name on the ball. Not the end of the world, but I don't want you guys to be confused that there's 4 different moorings out there, okay? There's not 2 for Schmidt. There's not 2 for Walker. There's only 2 moorings that are legally permitted to Schmidt. In this picture here, in 2023, I received a call that This vessel had washed up on the rocks in the Hyannisport jetty. I got underway. I found the vessel against the rocks. You can see in the picture here that the pennant had failed, and I towed the boat back into the fairway where it was taken over by the Hyannisport Yacht Club launch boat, and they brought it back to the dock. The following year, in 2024, the same vessel washed up in Hyannisport, and the pictures that I showed you before are the condition of the chain that we found on the boat with the mooring ball still attached to the boat, and the chain had failed. The thing about this particular case is there was another vessel involved. Unfortunately, Mrs. Schmidt's boat, the regulator in question, was upwind of this vessel here. When it broke free, it got tangled on this vessel's pennant, and it caused the pennant to broke, and this customer, mooring permit holder, vessel got totaled from the damage. And the thing about this particular case is that AGL entered an inspection report for the mooring that this boat was on June 10th, 2024. This means that the mooring received a full inspection. It was pulled out of the water, all the chain was inspected, and it was replaced as necessary per the regulations. This is a false report. Obviously, that didn't happen. There's no way you can fully inspect the mooring on June 10th and tell me that the chain is in good condition, and then 2 months later, the boat washes up on the rocks and the chain looks like this. Furthermore, I received an invoice from the mooring servicer of the gentleman's boat who got damaged, and his pennant was replaced on invoices for 118. So it was a new pennant going into the spring of 2024. Pennants generally last 4 to 5 years, depending on the area and the wind conditions. So it's a very, very upsetting case, and this is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for the Harbor Master Department. It's one thing if one of his customers breaks free, washes up on the beach, and there's no damage done. But when boats start colliding with each other because false inspection reports are given and damage is done to another vessel, I'm completely obligated to take action in that case. In regards to Mr. Avery's claim about the mooring placements by July 1st and the winter stakes by June 1st, these are very specific regulations. They're written in our regulation book. They're given to the mooring servicers. When a permit holder hires a licensed servicer, they are obligated to follow the regulations. This permit holder pays the licensor to put their ball on in the spring, to bottom paint it, to write their name on it, to rewrite their mooring permit number, all right, and then to take that ball off in the fall and replace it with a winter stake. This isn't the first time this has happened. Every year I go out there after June 1st and AGL's winter sticks are still out. It's not people who don't pay him. It's not people who didn't renew. These are customers that maybe don't use their moorings all the time. He knows that they're not using it, and he kind of gets around to it when he feels like it. The issue with this is I get numerous complaints from the launch drivers because they're hazards to navigation, and people run over these winter stakes because they're sunk in the water at this point. Only a little bit of them is sticking out, and they end up getting wrapped up in people's impellers. So again, it's just the basic job of a mooring servicer, and it's written in the regulations. And then the last thing, again, guys, I have 25 different, instances, but I'm not going to bore the committee with them, nor do I need to. But in May, I was told that AGL was taking over the Lake Wequaquet Yacht Club. He was going to be placing all the moorings in. On May 13th, I sent him an email. It was an Excel sheet of everyone who was currently permitted I did this so that he didn't put people who didn't renew back in the water. And in big capital letters, I wrote, Chip, please make sure that all the names and the mooring permit numbers go on the ball this year. That's the job of the mooring servicer. And it's extremely important. When I go out to GIS my moorings every year, I have 2,600 moorings that I need to enter into a computer. And when I go up to a mooring ball and it doesn't have the number on there and I can't read the name, it takes a lot of time to investigate the vessel, trace it back to the owner, find out what the mooring permit number is, and enter it in the computer. So I specifically asked him to please label these balls so that we could have a smooth season. The GISing would go according to plan. And when I went down there and inspected the balls, I had a total of 16 of them that weren't labeled and either didn't have a name or didn't have a number on there. And I'm going to stop the presentation there, gentlemen. Again, we have 25 different incidents. I'm not going to get into them all. It's a matter of public safety. It's a matter of integrity. If you're wondering, by comparison, the other licensed mooring servicers and the incident reports we have logged against them, I did that research. And out of the 13 people we have permitted, there was 3 different incidents logged in total for all 13 companies. 2 of them weren't violations. They were boats that were illegally placed on a dock at a boatyard. And those incident reports were just logged under that boatyard, who happens to be a mooring servicer, but they weren't actually violations. So this doesn't happen. I don't have any issues with my other licensed mooring servicers. I don't have boats breaking free every year, multiple times a year in any other mooring field in the town of Barnstable. This only happens in Hyannisport. This only happens in Lewis Bay. And every time I get a report of a vessel that is broken free from its mooring, 99.9% of the time, it comes back to AGL. And I'll leave the committee with that. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Jay. Does anyone else from the committee have anything to weigh in on?
Jay,
Gary?
thanks for your presentation. It gives shades a different light to the situation.
I'd like to make a comment. I don't know. I haven't read, the letters that I just got 15 minutes before this meeting, and this is my first day on the committee, but I am on the water all year long, and some of the things that I did see in those pictures are concerning, and commercial fishermen and involved in aquaculture, and I think that being accountable on the water is probably one of the most important things you can have, not for just yourself, but for everybody else. And it is concerning to see those things, but I will say I don't know. I wouldn't be able to vote on anything tonight. I haven't read all the letters or anything like that. And I will one other thing too is the fact that Chip, like, if I was you in your shoes, I would literally be like on front and center of the camera explaining these one by one. And the fact that you can't like show your face on the screen is, yeah, like it should have been there the whole time, and you should be speaking up the whole time, because if this is your livelihood and this is something that you care about as much as you say, you got to show some accountability. You got to be there, and I don't want to look at Paul's a nice guy and everything, but I don't really care about Paul. It's not Paul's livelihood; it's your livelihood. So, like, I don't know if this is going to go to a vote tonight or not, but I would like to see. I would have liked to see more of you. That's all I'm gonna say.
Would anyone else like to weigh in on this? Okay, we see you.
Yeah, Jacob, this is my second time, I think maybe your third time ever being on a Zoom call. Okay. I'm not sure how this works. So, I mean,
Well, listen,
I'm never in front of a camera. I apologize.
I can't even see anybody right now because my girlfriend's father is calling me right now, and all of a sudden the screen went blank. I am completely unable to figure out this whole technology thing and all, but I can't even, for whatever reason, I can't see you guys. I don't know if you guys can see me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm completely illiterate to this technology thing. That's not an excuse. I mean, like the camera's in front of you, and you can see, and you you didn't respond to really any of the things. You know,
I was on the water. Let me just say, this is my livelihood.
I've been on the water. I was on the water the past 2 days, and tomorrow I'll be on the water for the third day in a row before sunrise. So I don't need that.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Jacob. I think
Rachel, come help me with this.
Sharice's comment at the beginning of the meeting on that of our conversation and it was and understand what they're expressing in that particular conversation. It'd be better for
Mr. Walentis, I think you're all broken up. Is everyone else getting that too?
No, I'm not getting.
That's correct. I
Yeah,
can't
having some mic issues.
Can't hear you.
All right, I can see you guys now, but I
Yeah,
can
faintly. I can hear you faintly.
Jay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to cut you off, Jacob. I didn't want the conversation. It's been going well, but I didn't want the conversation to deteriorate in a manner that none of us want to see. It's an emotional conversation from both sides. I appreciate it. I think at this point in time, if we're hearing this appeal, I think the harbor master has spoken and presented the evidence that Mr. Revere was looking for. Mr. Revere, do you want to weigh in on any of that, or?
Well, I think Chip can weigh in on some of it. He's the one there.
Go ahead, Mr. Niehoff.
Gentlemen, I appreciate, letting me talk here. This is my livelihood. I've been doing moorings and working on the water as a mooring servicer for the last 17 years in the town of Barnstable. Prior to that, I worked not as a servicer, but also on the water. Like Jacob, I've been on the water every day this week. I'll be on the water every day next week. This is my life.
Would you address the chain that they showed?
Yeah, that was a derelict mooring owned by Walker. I can't. The mooring that is permitted to that regulator is Schmidt. And that's Schmidt.
Yeah, Chip,
That's also the inspection for that mooring was Schmidt.
That's right, and that's Mrs. Schmidt's boat on Mrs. Schmidt's mooring.
No, it was Walker. It says Walker on. Excuse me, I didn't interrupt.
That's right.
Interrupt you. Sorry, sir.
Chip, you never changed the name. Walker was transferred to Schmidt. When that happens, they don't get a new mooring. The physical tackle is transferred to the new permit holder. Walker is the mother. The mother transferred it to the daughter. The daughter's name is Schmidt. Everything in the system stays the same. The mooring permit number stays the same. It's the mooring servicer's responsibility to change the name on the ball to reflect the new owner. So when you submitted an inspection report for Schmidt, that's what you were doing. That is Schmidt's boat. That is her mooring. Okay, it just still says Walker on it because you failed to change the name. The chain that I showed the committee is off of several different boats. That's not just Walker. These are several of your customers, and I have more pictures. Again, I'm not getting get into all of this. I don't feel the need to. Yeah, I said my case. I have all the evidence here in the file to back it up, and I know it's your livelihood, but we gave you, chance after chance, notification after notification that things needed to change, and that you needed to do a better job when it comes to servicing your clients. And unfortunately, that never happened, and this is the result.
With regards to the Schmidt mooring was replaced in 2023. It was a new mooring that was placed out there. With regards to the pictures of the moorings that you said that did not have in Lake Quaquaquet, those moorings that you brought in, that was something that was not addressed in this letter, but we will address it now. Those moorings aren't in the water. It was on the land, and they were being serviced by myself and getting ready to be put into the water. What else?
No, sir.
Those pictures. I looked at those pictures clearly, and those are on the land.
That's right, because I went down there in October when you hauled them to photograph them. I went out there to GIS. I noticed that none of them had their names on them, like I asked you, and it was much easier to wait for you to haul them to document the fact that you never labeled any of them. So if you want to do a Freedom of Information request, you can see when I took the pictures on my phone. They were taken this fall after you hauled them and placed them on the land.
With regards to a friend, when I requested him, or I asked the harbor master's office for information on where moorings go in Barnstable Harbor, my response was from you is, I have no idea. I don't have GIS mapping on any of that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's true to some extent. And the reason
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but when I also asked, I'm still talking, when I called, you came to my office and you asked me, could you put a mooring in Barnstable Harbor for this individual? I said, I don't know this individual. You asked me to put it in because he was calling your office and complaining that he wanted a mooring in. So I went out and I give, you guys you're my authority. I give you the utmost respect. So I took the phone and I talked to him right there in person with another person that's standing next to me. And we went out immediately and put that in the water at your request. Mr. Tiagi, similar situation, put it in. There was an email from your office to Mr. Tiagi and myself saying your mooring is in the water and it is confirmed. I can't control what my sister does or my mother that I can't have any communication with whatsoever per court order. And I have not had any communication with her because of that for the last 2 years. Her derelict mooring is out there. Probably still is. So be it. This is my life, guys. I mean, I also will say that I've been doing this for a long time. I don't know what the good comes about what you're trying to do here. I guess I'm waving the white flag. I'm trying to say, what can I do better? If there's a phone call to me, I respond instantly. There was a picture of the skiff that it has a lot of water in the bow. We are looking at it. There are some moorings in there in that picture. I see it. I am standing there at the dock with the harbor master, Brian Taylor, in that picture. That is me standing right there with the individual that had problems with that boat. The boat that flipped over was a Carolina skiff that had a 15, or it was underpowered. I have no idea how that person flipped it over. I gave him a second, third chance to work in the yard, to be part of the operation. And he's like, nope, the water's my life. I got to go.
Deputy Harbor Master Horn.
Yeah, the only thing I want to address is that we did have a unique situation this year. We lost one of our mooring servicers on the north side. That particular individual did the Barnstable Harbor West mooring field. Chip stepped up, and he did step up to the plate and put these moorings in for these people, and I give him credit for that. When he asked me about specific locations, this is the one mooring field in the town where we don't have exact data, and there's a good reason for that. Years ago, Howard Boats approached the Waterways Committee and Dan Horn, and they received an exception to our regulations that stated they weren't required to put a mooring ball out on their mooring because they were scratching their wooden boats. So unfortunately, when we go to GIS that area, there's a large number of these little wooden skiffs that are made by Howard Boats. They've been around forever. The people are permitted, but unfortunately, we don't have the exact permit number always recorded. I do my best to look up the name of the vessel in our system and try to associate that with the mooring permit number. But unfortunately, that's the one mooring field that's kind of the Achilles heel in our GIS program. The moorings are plotted. We still enter it into the system, and I can see that there's something there. I just can't always correlate the exact mooring permit number to that specific location. So in this case, I wasn't, able to help them out. But that's an exception to the rule. And any other time that anyone requests a location for a mooring, I'm able to give that mooring servicer, that information. And, this whole relationship started with Chip because, I went out there and I would give him a location and he would put the person somewhere else. And then, he's the only guy in town who's doing helix moorings. We have a specific regulation that says, that healing moorings can only be placed with the harbor master's approval. And I go out there and helixes are being installed left and right and transferred over to other customers. And none of this approved, by the office. And that's very concerning. Brian Taylor spent years going to Waterways, holding meetings at Town Hall, trying to organize the Hyannisport mooring field to make it more efficient. I took over that project. And when someone puts a helix in without permission from the harbor master's office, it completely compromises everything that we're trying to do here. Because I can't just go out there and have them move a helix. As you know, they require divers, special equipment. Chip's the only gentleman that I know of in the town of Barnstable who's able to do that. So, it's kind of how this whole relationship started. Was helixes were being put in illegally for customers who didn't have permits. Helixes were being put in for customers, and then he wasn't taking out their old mooring. So I'd go out there in GIS, and I found one permit holder with two moorings. One of them was a new helix that wasn't authorized, and then his old mooring was still in the water, which again hurts the program. I need these moorings removed. I need the locations recorded because, as this committee knows, I'm moving people off the wait list in record numbers. I'm utilizing every square inch of every mooring field I have. It's the top priority for this department. We are all about moving that wait list, making our mooring fields more efficient. And to do that, I need a mooring servicer that's going to cooperate with me. And unfortunately, that just hasn't been the case with AGL.
Jay, moving forward now, pending the outcome of this discussion here concerning Mr. Niehoff, if the revocation of his license stands, does he have any option to reapply? What is, Attorney Revere mentioned possibly a third strike. What is he ever able to reapply? What would be the process? What does the harbor master's office expect? What are there things that he can do to redeem some of the things that he didn't necessarily perform on before?
Jay,
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that. Brian, you want to speak to that, or?
Jay, yeah, can you just put the agenda back up? I have your email in front of me. I'm not sure.
Sorry, sir.
So yeah, that question's never been asked, Mr. Willantis. Per the regulations, they need to reapply every single year to get a mooring servicer license. I'd be happy to find out that information and get back to the Waterways Committee.
I just thought it was, I can't speak for anyone else in the committee. I have taken considerable time to look at both things. Jay, I appreciate the time you've dedicated to this evening to supporting the letter that you sent to Mr. Niehoff on October 8th. The fact that this started back in 2002, I personally know how serious your office takes safety on the waterways and boats breaking free, and I understand some problems with employees, but at this particular point in time, both Mr. Niehoff and Mr. Revere, I am of the opinion, as we are an advisory board, but I would support the decision of the harbor master's office without any question. I have great remorse if it affects your business, and that's not at all our intent. It's not my intent, certainly. And I'd love to see an opportunity for you to circle back, but nonetheless, it can't be ignored. All these incidents that have been laid out, notifications that have been sent to you, certified letters that have been sent to you. It's been demonstrated, at least to me at this point in time, that they have gone above and beyond to notify you of issues in relation to the jobs that you have performed. I'd love to see if there's an opportunity for you to redeem yourself moving forward. At this point in time, I've heard what I needed to hear. I don't know what other committee members. Jacob, are you not comfortable voting based on the fact that you haven't had the opportunity to read these letters?
Yeah, I would have to abstain. Not reading the letters and just getting in this so short term and not getting to think about it. But I am here supporting the working waterfront, but that means that you got to take this very seriously. I take this extremely seriously. I am very, very hard on these kind of things, as everybody should be. This is the ocean, and I'm just gonna have to stay. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna abstain my vote.
Gary?
Todd, I have to agree with your assessment. Reluctantly, I feel very, bad about it, but safety is primary, especially with moorings in the mooring fields. So yeah, I support Jay's position and the harbor master's position on this.
Because there's only two of us, where does that put us? I know it's an advisory role, but it sounds like that at the very least, Gary and I are prepared to make a decision on this. How would you like to see us?
Yeah, Mr. Willantis, excuse me, Derek Lawson, Director of Marine Environmental Affairs. I just want to bring up a point of order here. Seeing how we only have two making a vote this evening, we would probably have to push this to the next meeting, and when we would have a third. That would just be the right thing to do. You actually have to have, an odd number here to make this work.
Do we have to make a motion to continue it, or is it just because there is not enough people present to render an opinion that it just continues automatically?
I would make a motion. Mr. Angelo can review the notes, and I believe the chairman, Mr. Everson, will also be back for that meeting at that time. And then you can have more discussion if needed, or you can make the recommendation to go ahead and vote once Mr. Angelo has read the documents that is required.
And when we get to that next scheduled meeting, are we required to open it up again for public comment or just within the committee?
I will take that under review and speak to legal. Legal has reviewed all the documents that we have sent, and they're on board with all the documents that we've sent to AGL and have had no issues with those. So I will get that answer for you, and we can speak about that at the next meeting.
So, Gary, do you want to make a motion to continue this to the next scheduled meeting?
Motion to continue.
Right. Okay. So I'm in agreement with Mr. Lawson that I do think continuance works, and I do think there are means to qualify people in the interim.
Just before you make the motion, though, would you like us to update the correspondence in any form? I know you had a question about that in the beginning.
I think if everybody's in agreement that the forum that we're hearing this appeal under is okay under correspondence, I certainly don't have a problem. I just didn't want to go through the motion of hearing it and having Mr. Revere state the case and then have it go nowhere because it wasn't heard in a proper manner. If this is an acceptable manner that we can have a vote on the appeal, it's fine with me. I'm certainly not want to make it look difficult. I wasn't sure because it wasn't an itemized agenda item whether we could actually hear proceed.
Again, because we don't have it under mooring appeals. I understand what you're saying, but it's not actually a mooring appeal. If you'd like, and obviously it's up to the Waterways Committee, we could add, response letter and appeal regarding AGL mooring service or license to the agenda to update it if you'd like, but you'd have to make a motion to do so.
It might not necessarily be up to me, but I would like to leave public comment open in case, it depends obviously what Derek gets from legal or whatever, but I just think that would be kind of fair in case some customers or whatever, there's somebody wants to weigh in that didn't know about this, unless there was some reason to close it.
I guess my only feeling in asking that question, Jacob, is it's really under the purview of the harbor master's office to renew or not renew these licenses. And although I understand everything that's at stake,
if the committee has to weigh in on it, I think then we should be able to use all the resources that we have. And if maybe nobody weighs in, maybe they do. But again, like you're saying, yeah, of course, it's up to the harbor master's office to renew it. And we're just an advisory committee, but what's the harm in keeping it open for somebody like this?
I'm not opposed. So I guess the first item that we need to act on is to make a motion to actually have it listed as an agenda item. So does anyone, Gary, Jacob?
Yeah, yeah. Make a motion to list it as an agenda item, yes.
I second that motion.
Okay, so we're going to actually put it on the agenda. What is the date for the next meeting?
Pam would know. It's early because of the holidays. It might have been the 19th again. Pam, do you have the date?
It's the 17th. It's the 17th of December. Just so we're clear, though, where under here would you like it? Where under the agenda would you like it? Or under correspondence, we can just change it again to appeal. It could be new business if you'd like. It could be old business. I just want to know exactly where you'd like it placed.
I would say under old business, appeal of the revocation of the mooring servicing license.
Okay.
Agreed.
Thank you.
And is that meeting, do we know? I'm assuming December's
17th at 7 p.m.
Is that meeting, I'm assuming there's space, but I don't want to be that presumptuous.
Yes, there's space, as far as I know. Yes.
So then now we need to make a motion to continue this to the meeting on December 17th. Does anyone want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to continue this meeting, this agenda topic to the meeting on December 17th.
Great. Thank you, Jacob.
I second it.
Just to be clear, did we make a motion and put it into play for the putting it on the agenda?
I believe we did.
Yes.
Under
Yes.
business for December 17th.
Okay.
Correct.
So we have made a motion. Let's just back up just so that we're doing it right. Motion that was made to continue the meeting to December 17th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Did we satisfy? So this has now been continued to December 17th.
Correct.
Okay. Great. And now I think Mr. Egan, thank you, Mr. Revere. Thank you, Mr. Niehoff. Look forward to seeing you back on the 17th, and we'll continue this conversation.
Yes, and thank you, Jay. My sister will be glad to know you refer to me as Mr. Avery. I thought that was pretty funny.
And now I think Mr. Egan is going to rejoin us here to assume chair position of this meeting.
Yes, I'm back. Thank you. Next agenda item is the Harbor Master's report. Mr. Taylor.
You want me to do it, Jay, since you've been talking for the last hour?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm ready, guys. We're busy. Just because it's fall doesn't mean that it's slow around here. We've been extremely busy. The weather has really helped. For those who don't know, we provide off-season dockage at several of our locations, including Prince Cove and Bismore Park. We've had a lot of transient people coming in, taking advantage of those inexpensive slip fees for the off season. We are removing the ATONs. I told the committee that last year. Right now, the entire south side has been removed. There are no more channel markers in Catuit or Hyannis, East Bay, Centerville River. All that stuff has been removed. We will be working on the north side this week to complete that operation. It's very, very labor intensive. You wouldn't realize it, but we have over 200 ATONs. Each anchor and chain weighs 60 pounds when we pull them out of the water. And there's multiple stages involved with removing these. We have to get them into the boat. We have to take them from the boat and offload them onto the bulkhead or a dock. And we have to pick them up by trailer and load them again onto the trailer, take them off the trailer and clean them, and then load them back on the trailer to put them away. So the kids and I did the math, and just in anchors alone, we move 60,000 pounds every spring, every fall. That doesn't include the buoys themselves, which weigh 30 to 40 pounds, depending on the growth. So very dirty job, very hard job, but we all love it. We look forward to it every year. Other than that, we're getting ready for mooring renewal season. We're updating our software, going through all the invoices, making sure that we have a flawless renewal season again. We've had great luck with the online process. We're obviously continuing with that this year. People will get notified on or about January 1st so they can renew their permit. And I'll spend the next 3 months putting stickers into envelopes. And that's all I have for you guys tonight.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Mr. Taylor, anything to add, or Mr. Lawson?
No, nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. Any other related issues that might need to come up? Hearing none, would entertain a motion to adjourn and thank everyone for their efforts tonight on behalf of the town, and appreciate everyone's time. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's so moved in second. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.